Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sasha Farbach. U.S. President Donald Trump says his Board of Peace has reached a historic agreement for the complete disarmament of Hamas, describing it as the biggest breakthrough yet towards ending the war in Gaza. Now, Hamas says it has agreed to the framework, but Israel has yet to formally respond. Joining us now is Heinz Gärtner, professor of political science at the University of Vienna. Good to have you back with us. Welcome.
Good morning.
So, Professor, we are careful when we hear things like this from President Donald Trump. What do you make of this so-called breakthrough? Why is this different? Why now?
After all, it's not that different to the 20-point peace plan mapped out by President Trump before on Gaza. So the main points are still there. Disarming Hamas and withdrawal of Israeli forces, and there should be established a Palestinian Authority, mainly consistent, mainly made of technocrats. There should be no political role for Hamas. So these are the main point, and then there's an oversight by the Board of Peace. They're all the main points, but there have been sticking points in the past which are not resolved yet now. Even so, it is still open how it works. It's worth attempting it again. And the main sticking point, what I see, and what also was then in the first proposal, that is the sequencing. So what comes first? Should this Hamas disarm first, or should the Israeli forces withdraw first? So this is the main issue. Of course, there are other issues here. What does disarm really mean? What weapons? Where should the weapons be handed over? The Hamas definitely will not give the weapons to Israel, but the Palestinian Authority still has to be established also. So there are lots of open points, but again, why not try again?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned an interesting point there. On the one hand, we have what we can kind of hear at the moment. This is all very new, that Hamas has in principle agreed to this framework. We'll see how that works out. But we don't have anything, just this morning, anything from the Israeli side. And as you said, how likely is it that they might complicate this, that they may not agree to this? Also in terms of implementation, verification, it relies on zero trust. It relies on the idea of independent verification. Is there enough trust really between these two sides to have this carry on?
No, it is not, and officially Israel has not agreed to this framework plan yet. There is criticism coming out from Israel, because especially when it comes to the withdrawal of the Israeli forces. On the other hand, I cannot imagine that President Trump did not consult Israel and Netanyahu beforehand. So it's more a trial again, and Israel is sitting there and waiting how it works out and how it plays out. But of course, the final goal was what was aimed at in the last 20 points, some sort of two-state solution. This is something what Israel never will agreeing upon.
Mm-hmm. And also, obviously, this is part of the wider regional conflict, also with Iran. Let's talk about that for a moment. We have some new developments there as well, and to get your insight. Let's start with what we're hearing right now in terms of actually maritime security. This is a really key point here. Strait of Hormuz still being blocked. We also have shipping that's endangered in the Red Sea. What do you make of the Saudi Arabian plan for this? They've announced this maritime defense alliance. Apparently 14 countries would back this to protect commercial shipping. Is that going to be more successful than other ideas that maybe the Americans had and trying to get the Europeans on board?
I guess militarily it will not be more successful, and we have this conflict between the Saudis and the Houthis going ways back, basically until the civil war, but in 2015. And so it just re-emerged recently because the Saudis bombed the Sana'a airport, where the Iranian tried to organize a civilian flight. So it emerged, and this conflict will stay on and will not be solved militarily. But you mentioned also the other conflicts. Still, we have a lot of these conflicts, which all are on the edge to escalation. So we have this conflict in Yemen between Saudi and Houthis. Now we have the Saudi-US attacks on Iranian-based militias in Iraq. We still now have the conflict in Gaza. And on the basis, of course, there is the crisis and conflict in the Strait of Hormuz. So far, they all somehow remained separate. So they did not merge to a regional conflagration yet. But that's always the possibility that they all merge to one conflict. And that would be very, very dangerous. And when it comes to the maritime security, as you talked about the Strait of Hormuz, we do have a stalemate here, because President Trump now has to admit that it cannot be opened by force. On the other hand, Iran cannot give it up as a leverage. But President Trump wants to end the war because of domestic reasons. Only 28% of the Americans support the war, down to from 34% last month. They have the high prices, the international economic crisis, and the oil market. And on the other hand, of course, Iran wants to have the sanctions lifted. So it cannot go on this war, which is damaging to Iran's economy. So both have an interest to end the war, but they don't know how to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think also what you just mentioned there, you said things are very much on edge with different incidents drawing into all this threat into a wider conflict. As you mentioned, the Saudi strikes on linked forces from Iran in Iraq just a few days ago with the Americans. Also, another one we have here, I'm curious to get your insight, in Egypt, near the Egyptian port of Damietta. Now, this is the northwest of the country. This is where the Suez Canal opens up into the Mediterranean. Apparently, there's the first incident here, a drone strike against 2 ships. So how worrying is that development? Does this have now also the potential to also involve Egypt in this?
Egypt militarily basically is not strong enough that it might want to enter the conflict with military means. So Egypt might well want to solve this diplomatically. And I'm not sure whether in this conflict there was really an intention. I rather see it as an accidental incident that might well be able to be contained.
Mm-hmm. But either way, accidental or deliberate, I mean, this is another key shipping route if we're looking at all the container vessels that go through the Red Sea into the Suez Canal and then into the Mediterranean. How much will this affect, in your mind, shipping costs, insurance, risk? I mean, will ship operators still go through the Red Sea, or will they go around Africa? I mean, this is also a big trade question. I'm just curious about this kind of incident, what that does.
Yeah, of course. So far, the conflict remained between Saudi Arabia and the Houthis. So, of course, there's always the suspicion that Iran might pressure the Houthis now to close the Strait of Malbab, sorry for that. And but I don't think that the Iranians want to escalate on this front, even so it keeps this leverage as another option if the conflict in the Strait of Hormuz is not resolvable. That would be disastrous for the world economy because, of course, then the ships have to take a much longer road around Africa, and insurance costs will rise, and also this will have a negative effect on the world economy. Then if Iran is really doing this with the Houthis, even so the Houthis are not only taking the commands by Iran, so the Houthis have their own decision-making procedures. But if this happens, of course, the world governments would align against Iran. Because all the economies would be affected. And now, so far, I think Iran does not want that this brinkmanship crisis also adds to the other conflicts Iran is involved in already.
Yeah, and brinkmanship, as you said, but at the same time, those signs hard to ignore if we're looking at those strikes now in Iraq, further retaliation, these spillovers potentially. So we'll have to watch that very carefully, but it's definitely not a good sign for commercial shipping as well. And oil does oscillate quite a bit in these last days. Look, we'll have to close it there. Thank you so much. Really appreciate those insights as always. That was Heinz Gärtner, that professor of political science for the University of Vienna. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching World Talks, but do stay right here on TVP World for more news and commentary. Goodbye.